builds for Titan, and it looks like a must-have for most of the slams related attacks. Next one is Stone Skin. It doubles your armor from body armor. This one should help with defenses, but it is harder to say how big the effect of armor will be, considering we have different damage types. Next one is Ancestral Empowerment. It gives you an opportunity to improve your slam with Ancestral Boost every second. So every second one of your slams will be ancestrally boosted. It can be very good, especially if your slam skills will have a huge attack time, such as Thunder for example, so more of your slams will be empowered that way. We don't know what Ancestral Boost does exactly for now, but a lot will depend on the actual buff and the numbers behind it. The ability anyway looks pretty strong and will work great with self-casted slams that have.
Hai să vedem ce face Ancestral Boost.
Hey everybody, Ronray here, and getting close and personal with enemies is a very cool playstyle.
Iar eu ăsta cu engleza asta lui de îi se rupe limba în gură.
Shocks and destroys the enemies. So looking behind me, we have tons of notes for the one-shot Hammer of God's Titan, and we're learning this from my friend Halfmind. You can see that he has provided us with detailed notes for each of the skills, together with a summary of the skills and also the links, and plus all of the notable notes and also keystones that you want to go for this build. So yes, we have tons of information for this theory-crafted Titan build, and this makes me quite excited for this build. We even have ascension priorities of how you can do the highest damage, what are the ascension nodes that can be interesting to allow you to perfect this build, and get ready for Path of Exile 2 early access launch. Now before we dive into the builder's guide and also the notes, please keep in mind guys, the game is not released yet, and don't get overwhelmed with amount of links and also skill sockets over here. It is possible that we can reduce the amount of links and also usage of the skills. And we wanted to provide you guys with a more comprehensive all the way to the end game of the build, so you can kind of understand where the build is going. Now coming over to the skill trees for a Titan build. So the first skill we have is going to be Armor Breaker. Now over here we're linking Armor Breaker with Break Endurance, Increase Armor Break, Splinter, Rupture, and also Bloodlust. This skill will allow us to have a massive 1500 plus armor breaking effect, and also the ability to combine this build with additional supporting gems, which allows us to get endurance charge on armor breaking enemies, and also ability to have aggravated bleed.
Aș vrea ca toată lumea să înțeleagă că aceste alegeri nu reprezintă un concurs de frumusețe. Știu că poate...
which will empower our damage for other skills. So this is the initial starter build, and this is how we want to start the fight. And this initial skill will allow us to armor broken most of the monsters on the first hit. The supported gem are here to enhance the armor breaking value, and together with the ability to have aggravated bleeding, which we'll see with the main skill Hammer of the Gods, this is gonna be empowering our damage. Now the plus of using this armor breaker link is that we can also consider removing the splinter from the link to reduce the need having additional support gem for this initial combo skill. The second skill link we have is going to be Thunder. Now you can see there's a long description for Thunder, which have increased damage bonus and also abilities to deal additional damage to armor broken enemies and also causes shockwave. Thunder is linked with abilities like Life Leech, Brutality, Fist of War, Paralyze, and also faster attacks. Now Thunder is usually our follow-up primary DPS skill due to its high damage coefficient and also ability to guarantee critical hits when enemies are armor broken by the first initial skill coming from Armor Breaker. and this will have even higher increased critical damage, which is a big bonus. So usually against most of the monsters, the first 2 skills will combo them and one-shot them for a majority of the time. And coming over to a third skill with Leap Slam. Leap Slam will allow us to travel and become a mobility skill together with increased stun buildup. We're linking Leap Slam with Ruthless, Momentum, Overpower, and also Exploit Weakness. Now Leap Slam is gonna be our solid stun ability. We want to have a lot of stun because as you're gonna see in the later half, when we come over to the Ascension passives, we deal 40% more damage against stunned enemies. And because of the great stun build-up with Leap Slam, we can have the ability to empower this skill with additional supported gems, and also this can allow us to take down stronger units which we cannot combo with the first 2 skills. And this also brings us to our 4th skill with Bone Shatter. So let me see if I can zoom in a little bit, this might be a little better. Now over here we're linking Bone Shatter together with Devastate, Endurance Stun, multiple charges, and also Impact Shockwave. So coming over to the notes with Bone Shatter, this is going to be our heavy stun ability that sets up for additional burst window of damage. The goal of this ability is to fight powerful bosses and also elite so we can still one-shot enemies. It can apply full armor break on heavy stun due to the devastating gem that we have as support, and once we
Aș vrea ca toată lumea să înțeleagă că aceste alegeri nu reprezintă un concurs de frumusețe.
Nu te slow boss
Știu că
pe fața
poate
aceea ta.
unii
use after Sunder and also Leap Slam, it can also bring the enemies back to armor broken, which can then provide us with additional bonus damage. And the ability to gain additional endurance charge is also quite preferable using this combo and also this skill. Now, 5th ability is going to be Supercharged Slam. We can combine this one with Hourglass, Combo Finisher, melee physical damage, concentrated effect, and also area of effect. Now, Supercharged Slam is considered to be one of our heavy hitters, and it is combined with damaging units that is around others. Once this is fully charged, it can do a lot of damage together with shockwaves. And of course, we're going to come over to our multiple roars. So this ability is actually quite interesting. The Ferocity Roar allows us to shift into a bear and also trigger all the Warcry skills. So we're combining this ability to trigger all the Warcry.
Bă, dar asta nu era pentru druid. Cum, pula mea? Poți să folosești pe warrior? Ferocious Roar.
Warcries with Seismic Cry, with Enrage Warcry, with Raging
Pardon.
Cry, and also with Perpetual Charge. Now, coming over to the notes, we can see that this ability is quite high requirement on intelligence, and this is something we want to test out. And it is possible that we might change this in the future to just go with Seismic Cry instead of trying to cast all the Warcries. Now, this ability will boost the damage from Seismic Cry and also increasing radius, and also having the ability to not spend endurance charges on using Warcry. which is pretty good, but it does have a longer casting time and also the higher int requirement. And of course now we're going to come over to our final big hitting spell, the Hammer of the Gods. This spell has a whopping 1307% attack damage bonus multiplier, which is a massive amplified coefficient, and this attack cannot be evaded. It does have a long casting duration though. We're combining this with a supporting gem with inevitable critical, with critical damage, with deep cuts, bleed chance, and also second wind. So here we're combining with a lot of critical damage bonus with another boost of bleeding damage and with some cooldown
Nu știu dacă
recovery.
merge second
So the
wind
notes
cu
for this
ăsta,
one
mă
is
rog.
pretty comprehensive. This is gonna be our one-shot massive ability. With a massive damage coefficient, we have the guaranteed crit, we have the critical boost, we have the bleeding damage bonus, and also we have aggravated bleeding from the combination of our initial skill with Armor Breaker. And here we do have an additional note about bleeding not applying to monsters that has energy shield. And for this case, we want to stun the monsters and then uses our massive damage during the stun window to take down those monsters, and we can also be casting Ferocity Roll. Now it is also recommended that maybe it's better to use Supercharged Slam that we have over here instead of Hammer of Gods if enemy have energy shield. Now in terms of the defensive skills, we have the Sorcery Ward, and this seems to be a very good defensive skill against elemental damage. The second defensive ability is going to be Scavenge Plating. This skill is combined with Cannibalism, Vitality, and also Precision. This skill will allow us to have additional armor gain that is also stacking the tons of armor we already have. So going through the notes over here, Sorcerer Wand can allow us to absorb elemental damage up to 30% of our total armor, and we'll be having heavy investment towards armor and also strength, and our talent tree is also built towards survivability on this part. The Scavenger Plating
Hey guys, welcome to Denny's. With that bit of info being said. So the warrior is a strength-based class, specializes mainly with oversized melee weapons. So the favored weapon that they showcased in the reveal is the mace. So obviously you can have one-handed maces, two-handed maces. They even showed a little bit of dual-wielding two-handed maces. So that is going to be really interesting. I myself play a lot of WoW, and I love Fury Warrior, where you can dual-wield two-handed weapons. Going to be very fun. If you want to get a little bit crazy, you can also use shields. So they are very defensive in Path of Exile 2. You're heavily armored, and you also can completely block enemy attacks, while charging, or at all times. There is a stun bar, so you can't permanently do it. But warriors are very beefy and very tanky in Path of Exile 2. They can be, as well as they hit very, very hard with their slams. So they're hard-hitting melee skills. They often have like AoE effects, so you can see in the footage they hit very hard. You don't get to attack very fast, but this also means that they are super good with buffs. Warriors get what are called war cries, so they empower your next skill cast. So you can like cast an ability or cast a war buff, a war cry, and then cast an ability, and it will do like a repeat of that same ability when you use it once, or you can use it like a separate ability that also empowers that ability. It's really, really engaging and very synergistic, which is like the perfect way to play an ARPG. Also comes along with a lot of movement. And in PoE 2, obviously with the roll, you can kind of like animation cancel. So if you didn't want to, proc a really long ability where you're kind of slamming, kind of like I guess they talked about Elder Scrolls, then you can just use your roll to basically animation cancel it if you decide, hey, I actually don't want to finish this giant animation. So warriors in PoE 2 are definitely very different from like a barbarian in Diablo. Obviously, you can play like a very slow barbarian or a very slow paladin in Last Epoch, but it's not really what you're supposed to do, right? So at the end of the day, I think at the end of PoE 2, when you're in the end game, you're probably going to be a little bit faster paced than they show here. However, even if you're not and you're just kind of going slow and just doing massive AoE damage, this is definitely a class that is very fun. And definitely, if you want to do that AoE damage and just soak a bunch of hits, this is going to be the class for you for sure. I would like to talk about totems really quickly. So warriors get access to totems in PoE 2. So there is a totem called Shockwave Totem. It directly deals damage, just straight up. However, there is a totem that they called, I believe, Ancestral Warrior. So basically, you want like a summoning warrior class. This is kind of what this is. This is
Familia reprezintă pentru dumneavoastră uniunea dintre un bărbat.
Care e onoarea ăsta?
Witch Hunter versus Gemming Legionnaire for a explosive grenade mercenary. Good question, and I've been going back and forth on both, even considering some other classes because they are very strong. For example, Deadeye looks very interesting, and so does Titan. Even makes me consider playing like another build entirely, but thinking about it some more, I think I'll just play all classes and all ascendancies in the end, so I don't need to fret too much over what I play first. So gonna go with what I originally decided, which is a mercenary. So back to the question at hand: do we play Witch Hunter or do we play Gemming Legionnaire? Let's just go through the options, right? So the most interesting thing is actually, I'd say, number 4, number 5, the concentration mechanic, because it will reduce the cooldown of monster abilities, right? And that could be like super impactful. Like it's especially because like bossing is like a big thing in Path of Exile 2. If the bosses are just like auto attacking and like you're not really casting their like OP like one-shotting abilities, you know, it could make the fight really easy. That also could just mean more damage uptime, right? Because I'm assuming
Oh, stai așa să dăm. Ia, hai să... Cam așa o să arate the beginning of the game. Practic îți faci mercenary și aici te dă parte, nu? Ba nu, aici cred că e cu 2 deja. Văd că are o grămadă de skill-e. Interesting. Oh, are level 13 deja. Ok. Fire resistance takes you take this much less fire damage. Negative values cause you to take more damage instead. Maximum resistance is capped at 75 by default and cannot be higher than 90. Okay. Grenades. Mr. Run-Based, salut! Salut și mersi de follow. De ce nu s-a auzit ciudat? Twitch alerts? Am făcut o statistică, consider că aritmetic nu are nicio șansă la Scone oricât de mult ar face lumea scandal. Eu consider că va câștiga Lingegescu oricum. Acum rămâne de văzut, dar are prea puțini susținători. Nu știu, problema e că televiziunile au spălat pe creier o grămadă de oameni care și care au votat cu Georgescu acum s-au sucit. Pentru că au fost spălați pe creier. Și faza asta când ne scoate din, mă rog, din UE, din NATO, n-are cum, frate, că să faci un referendum ca să faci treaba asta, trebuie făcut un referendum și oamenii iasă la vot și votează dacă vor să iese sau nu. Cum au făcut și Anglia, au făcut Brexit-ul. Deci n-are cum, frate, un președinte să facă ce vrea el, că nu. Da, în fine, vezi? Mânărie acolo. Da. El deja s-a contrazis cu faptul că a zis că nu face PSD cu, alianță cu PSD. Man, deci, bă, ea mâncători de căcat maxim, adică plus de asta o declarat și că susține din toată puterea ei și din toată ființa vrea să susțină războiul din Ucraina. Păi, nu știu dacă realizați de fapt câți bani necesită un sprijin din ăsta. Bani care ar putea să-i folosească în pană, să facă spitale, mă. Să facă, nu știu, infrastructură, să termine în pana mea o centură. Și cu căsătoria LGBT, așa, deja mi și s-a sucit. Și Moldova. Da, man, eu nu suport, deci nici nu pot să mai văd. Și când o văd la televizor, deja mi scârbă de ea, bă. Bă, toate posturile unde te uiți numai propagandă anti-Călin Georgescu. Bă, nu mai vezi la televizor numai așa ceva, bă. Au ajuns până și reclamele să fie cu tentă de anti-Călin Georgescu. Bă, ești nebun la cap. Bă. Și bagă vrajbă și ură între oameni, Băi, ajungi să îți fie frică să spui cu cine votezi sau cu cine ai votat, că să nu sară ăla la brigat în pana mea. Să folosesc de televiziuni să manipuleze oamenii în masă. Până și familiile sunt amenințate de la primari. Da, bro, adică s-a ajuns corupția la un așa nivel încât, bă, nu știu, nu pot să-mi dau seama cum pot oamenii să rabde atâta, bă, nu știu, să se lase așa de umiliți și de călcați în picioare. Deci nu-mi vine să cred. Deci dacă ia să la scone și ne bagă în război, pe cuvântul meu, eu mă gândesc să mă mut, nu știu, mă duc și eu dincolo. Cred că până la urmă asta și urmăresc, să plecăm toți în pana mea din România și să ia ei România și să facă cu ea ce vor. De mulți din ianuarie dacă iese la scone. Bă, s-ar putea să ne bage în război nebuna asta. Nu știu ce să zic. Ok. Enough about politics. Asta e. Path of Exile 2, e șmecher rău. Da, băi, acum o să fie launch de seară la ora 9. Și acum încerc să mă hotărăsc ce să joc, între Warrior sau Witch Hunter, Mercenary. Pana mea de grenade, bă, dar pe tu vezi câte grenade dați și toate le-a dat pe lângă, durează, uite cât durează până explodează grenazele alea. Salut, abia aștept să câștigi la spune să mă pretenzi cu susținătorii ei. Ai grijă să nu scapi săpunul. Suntem o echipă bună. Da. E în stare unul din ăsta care o robă de malter. X-Zona, ce caracter îți faci până la urmă? Păi ia să vedem ce era la Stormweaver? Bă, dacă îmi fac eu o sorcă, mă. Cu custom crit sau custom shock. Storm. Păi Stormweaver. Cum dracu zice, bă, la sendațiul ăla? Așa. Storm Weaver. Păi și eu ce dracu am scris acolo? De ce? Storm? Waver. Bă, da, așa? Storm Weaver. My biggest problem with PoE 2 one day ago. Hai să vedem ce zice ăsta.
Hi everyone, it's Rax. I've been consuming Path of Exile 2 content nonstop for about a week in anticipation of its early access release this Friday. And honestly, the more that I hear about it, the more I seem to be falling in love with the game. I really like the direction that Grinding Gear Games seems to be taking it in. I've been seeing all the interviews with Jonathan Rogers from all the great content creators, getting lots of when you fight a boss. Well, assuming that we're not playing hardcore, and hardcore you only have one life, you're going to have 6 portals, and 6 portals are the best defense, and you just fight. If things go wrong, you can log out macro and go in your other 6 portals, and hopefully with 6 tries, the boss is dead, and we win. Excellent. Well, in PoE 2, they are making it a lot more challenging. On the bosses, you get 1 try. And in the campaign, if you die to the boss, I assume you're just going to be able to run back in and try the boss again until you either kill it or you go gear up and then kill the boss again and then go to the next act. But in the end game, you will only have 1 try. So if
Nu ai cumpărat nimic, aștept să vezi dacă se poate juca, plus că este un test și jocul e pe jumătate lansat. Eu abia aștept. Stormweaver, dar eu am scris PoE 2. Stormweaver și... așa, ia uite. Login, Stormweaver.
Hello and welcome, Exiles. Today I want to talk about my game plan for my start character, which is going to be a Stormweaver Archmage. I previously made a video going over some of the theory on it, and right now we just got a lot more concrete data, and I want to break down the things that excite me the most about it. On stream, if you're curious about my thoughts on other ascendancies, I'll be doing a deep dive in case you wonder about that, but I'm not going to make a separate video about it. I think there's already like 6 or 7 people that have made a video basically reading off the nodes, so...
Plus o căruță de probleme, cum ar fi? Exemplifică.
Let's just talk about Stormweaver specifically and why I'm excited about it. Now, initially, when they showcased the PoE 2 content reveal, this specific scene here was very, very important to me. This strongbox scene here was important for 2 reasons. Number 1 is it showed the permanent arcane surge. You notice the character here has arcane surge.
I thought to myself, top left won't block important information. You just have to trust